Hello, everybody. My name is Loïs Vanhee, and I'm going to present your research on optimizing requests for support in context-restricted autonomy, or a more informal title is How to Make Robot Deal with Customer Support. It's a research that we've been conducting with Laurent, Jeanpierre, and Abdel-Illah Mouaddib, both at the University of Umeå and at the University of Caen. So let's get started with an informal example. Typically, automating the art of managing received support. So let's imagine you are on a nice boat and you want to have to enjoy jumping into the ocean to see the fish and a good swim. And it's an activity that has a bit of risk and for which it's important to get a minimal degree of support. Notably, to have someone like watching you in case you get to drown or you get an accident or stung by something and you want to get help. And when you engage into this kind of activity of jumping into the water, you kind of think and reason to deal with help and helpers and for instance, what help you can get. If you get to drown, we'll get some buoy getting there. Do they have a helicopter ready to help you, for instance? But also, you think about helpers. Are they super busy and they have a long queue at the moment? Are they always there watching, or are they reading the book and sometimes they look over the sea? But, and then it turns that it can also lead to you to adjust your goals you go into. So for instance, if the sea is agitated, then in that case you can say, okay, maybe I shouldn't go into the water. So you can have different goals, but also different plans that you can put in place, like best preparing yourself, or not trying to go into this super swimming, but rather go casual swimming with your duck buoy around the water and to be more casual. And of course, usually it's a mix between the two. So if the more risk, for instance, you might want to get more support to be sure that you're very watched and there is no long queue before you get the customer service. And so this is what we're observing what people generally think about when making this kind of decision. And the whole point of this paper is to try to achieve the same with some robot that can ask for help. So a bit more formally. Many applications of robotics require human intervention, notably when it comes to safety critical, but also when the automation is limited, and usually a combination of the two. So typically the robot distributing pills, likely you prefer to have it, if it doesn't recognize well the shape of the color, then in that case you might want to have a human check before it's being delivered to the elderly. The problem of this human check is that it's costly, and then we try to reduce this cost. And so there are two classic ways. One is to get for cheaper support, using, for instance, a framework on the level of support and level of autonomy. So the robot is mostly autonomous, except at a few occasions, like when it looks at the pill. Then in that case, it should be given more. It should be at least watched or being authorized before getting to action. The other way is to adjust problem solving to better using the support that is there. So, okay, instead of getting for the fully, trying to make a plan that best compromise given limited support. But again, it leads to another trouble is that, okay, who is going to manage the support? If the human has to do that, then it creates some cost. And this is why adjustable autonomy is there, and trying to look at, okay, how is it possible for the system to automatically adjust itself? The deliberation regarding support management is being automated given to the system. When it comes to existing solutions for adjustable autonomy, nowadays it's mostly static plans with some kind of ask for help actions. So before jumping into the water, then check that you're being watched by the watchman. The issue is that it's very oblivious to many dynamics of support and help and support providing. So things like, okay, what if operators disconnect at the wrong time? How do you deal with that? Can you anticipate this kind of situation? What if operators are busy? What if they take long before helping? Support is expensive. What help do you ask for? So and more generally, how do you adapt your problem solving to the support you ask and the support to ask the problem solving? In this kind of plan, they won't consider, okay, what if I can take the duck buoy before jumping into the water? It's not really something that this kind of system take into account. So as a contribution that we make into this paper is how to automatically generate policy that blend at the same time problem solving and health management, and to find some kind of hybrid policies that make the best use of both. And of course, the hero of decision making and uncertainty and a bit of thinking ahead is the super Markov decision processes, which is going to be the core framework that we are going to rely on. So the solution that we propose overall is to augment problem solving on the one hand, with health management on the other hand. So from a conceptual standpoint that we are going to first introduce, it is okay. First, you have the world model that for the modeling the problem solving, and then somehow a model of the management, health management dynamics that will go for piloting this degree of support that you can get. But it can also be the kind of actions you might require from the operator of the environment. Like, for instance, okay, send the helicopter to deal with me at this point. So when we have this kind of conceptual layer being cleared, and of course the interleave between the two, the idea is to turn that into some formalized Markov decision processes and connect the two together. And once we have this, then we can use state-of-the-art algorithm to generate hybrid policies optimized according to both poles. In terms of the state-of-the-art, currently this is already well covered, but this is what we are going to cover today, and that we cover into this paper. And we start from first conceptual level, and which is the general question that we ask is, okay, how do you manage help? What do you need to think about when you ask for help, or in a situation where you need to get some help, or you can require some help? And what are the kind of the dynamics? Okay, if you ask for the helicopter, very likely it won't be there in 2 minutes, or it won't be there for unless there is a good reason. And so first exploration is from a conceptual standpoint. So the first thing to consider is, what is the matter? What do you ask help for, and what kind of help do you ask? Which is somehow the effect of support that it can have on both on the kind of requirement that you have, but also on the environment that you are operating in. Another line is, okay, what are the dynamics of the helper and the request, the asking? Okay, do the operator reply fast? Do they reply often? Do they reply positively? What are the costs of asking for help? And so, which can be bounded by support availability, support cost, for instance. And altogether, it's some of thoughts forms what we call the dynamics of support. And of course, when you ask for help, there are also some risk and some kind of uncertainty tied to that. That is also very important to manage. So what about the denial, which is refusing to get some further help? Okay, I can watch you, but we cannot always be behind you if there is a problem. There is also a risk of disconnect. What's the probability for your for the watchman to look away rather than looking at the sea, and to somehow leave you without support unexpectedly? And if you are in this situation, out of support unexpectedly, what are the consequences? So, for instance, it might be, okay, rather than swimming, continuing your super crawl, you might say, okay, well, I'm not being watched, and now I'm getting into a safe position because the sea is a bit dangerous. And when I'm going to be watched again, then I'm going to go into my effective swimming. In addition to these two independent components, it's important to also tie them together, because there are also connections between the two. It's not like problem solving on one hand and help in the other. And notably, you want to have, for a certain problem solving state, to have a certain degree of support. When I am in the water, I want to be watched by the watchman. This is one thing. The other bit is, okay, you want also to be able of modeling what is the effect of support on problem solving. So, for instance, what's the consequence of the robot being teleoperated? It's important to know what kind of effect you can expect from being helped. Or what if what's the consequence of being sent? There's a bureau that can be sent on the sea. This is important to see on the kind of help you might require and why, and things that are not by default into the word model. The other bit is modeling the possible violation of support, and what happens if there's a violation that does occur, and how you adapt your problem solving to this. And what we propose is to have a backup word model in case there is an unexpected disconnect. Okay, so now that we first cover the first bit, there is the more formal one. And in that case, we take Markov decision processes, restricted autonomy level, which is basically a function that says, in every state of the MVP, this is the level of the autonomy that you're allowed to be into or forbidden to be into, and then the support aware, the dynamics, and that we combine all together. So it's basically you cross the level of support and whether you can still ask for more help, and with some simple transition function based on probabilities of getting the help when you ask for more help, or being denied, or the probability of the connection. And so it's like the two models that you provide that you can include there. And what you need is also to include some teleoperation and backup for tying all together these two models. Check out the paper for more formalization, and we can briefly go through an example. We enjoyed the fact that there are not so many activity around to make some experiments with some robots. This is a corridor of the university that we put some stuff into during a free day. And this is the map that is automatically generated. And so using the classic generation, say when you want to go to the goal, you go there, but it's forbidden because of the obstacle, and you want to go to this way, and you manage to get to your goal. Now, what if there are some new restrictions? So typically we want the robot to watch to be there, authorized to be there, and teleoperated to be there. And now the robot has to deal with this new variable. And let's see, for instance, we take the same problem and everything is easy to get for support, but there is no yet model for the effect of support. So in that case, the robot starts in full autonomy, it starts to move to its goal, and then as it gets closer, it says, okay, now I want to be authorized before getting there. And the operator say, yes, I'm okay with watching you, but supervision, I don't do that now, and actually I'm going to deny. It's too much, I'm too busy at this point. So then the system, without any further replanning, immediately trigger another strategy that goes authorized area. So up and automatically start moving there. There are quite a few variants of this. So for instance, okay, what if the costs are high? You go into full autonomy, or what if there is some risk if you go to orange and not so high into green, then you go down this way. If you have a model of operator support, then the robot can say, okay, well, the operator will figure out how to cross that bit. I don't know how to do that, but the operator can. And in that case, it can ask for a high level of support. And another exciting one, an emerging phenomenon that we observed, was what if there is a low chance to get some support? So in that case, naturally, the robot will go into fully autonomous mode, say, okay, whatever, I'm not going to wait for a support that is never going to happen. But should this support be provided, then the robot immediately react and adjust its plan and say, okay, well, in that case, I see that the support, I can go this and use the teleoperation. So this is the plan that I'm going to trigger now. We have some empirical results that mostly show some optimality results that are interesting, but it's best to look at the paper to get all the details. Yeah, what we show is that there is a good compromise between problem solving and support cost. As a sum up, we produced into this paper the first model of support-aware adjustable autonomy that is capable of automatically producing hybrid policies that blend on the one hand problem solving, and on the other hand, help management. What help do you need? How do you get it? When do you ask for it? What kind of help do you ask? We show that we include into this model quite a few aspects to take into account: availability, support cost, denial, disconnection, etc. And we demonstrated this deployability on robots. And by having policies that are highly adaptive and resilient to operator support. Last but not least, it's a model that is directly applicable. Now, if you have an MDP-based model, it really literally requires a matter of hours to turn it into a support-aware solution, thanks to our solution. Thank you very much for watching, and looking forward to getting your question and discussion together at the conference. Have a nice day.